Welcome to today's deck profile on Rider Calyrex VMax and the partner Pokemon that go along with it, as well as having a bunch of battles afterwards to see just how strong this deck really is in the current format, because personally I think it's placed pretty well. So if you are new here, be sure to subscribe down below, as I do post a mix of fun and competitive videos multiple times a week, so you don't want to miss out on those. Let's get into the deck profile and the matches. Let's start off by having a look at the Rider Calyrex VMax. So if you're not familiar with this card, I'll quickly go over some of its key features here. The main points are the ability, and of course the attack is also relevant, but particularly this Underworld Door ability makes it so we can attach a psychic energy from our hand once during our turn to one of our benched Pokemon. So we get some great energy acceleration this way, but it also allows us to draw 2 cards if we attach energy in this way. So super good energy acceleration and consistency, enabling us to draw through our deck very nicely. And then we do also have a big attack here that's going to work with this ability. Max Geist does a base of 10 damage, but then you deal an additional 30 damage for each of your psychic energy in play. This counts for all of your Pokemon that are in play and have psychic energy attached to them, so this is going to be able to deal a lot of damage in the late game, assuming of course we do get a lot of energy in play, but you should be able to get that no problem, since we're going to have multiple of these Calyrex in play. We do have a full 4 count of them, a play set of each, to ensure that we can get them into play and using that ability nice and early. It is also weak to Dark, which I'll point out later, but it is something to take note of. People will be trying to counter you with things like Eternatus and the Galarian Moltres, but I think those have dipped in popularity a little bit in favour of other decks, and this is really where this deck is going to shine, because hitting for that psychic weakness against the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX anyways, it is going to be very good for you, and just the overall consistency of the deck makes this a top tier contender. Moving into the basic Shadow Rider here, I am using this one from the set. I believe there's a promo as well, which has slightly different attacks, but I am using this one purely for Shadow Mist, the first attack here, as it prevents our opponent from using special energies as well as stadiums from their hand. But mainly that special energy effect there, preventing any decks from using those, is going to be super powerful in shutting off decks that really rely on special energies. There's not a lot of them right now in the current format, but if we do come up against any of those decks that do rely on them, we can certainly shut them off with this, which I do really enjoy. Then the second attack can be useful, but for the most part we're just focused on that Shadow Mist. Looking at the other attackers though, we do also have the new Zacian V from the Celebrations set. This is the main reason that I wanted to cover this deck, because I'm really happy with the list now that we do have this Zacian V. It has an ability which is similar to Intrepid Sword, but it doesn't actually allow you to draw cards. However, it does guarantee energy. Once during your turn you can search your deck for a psychic energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon. Your turn does end, so this is an ability that you're going to be focusing on using on the first turn of the game. Sometimes you will use it on the second turn if you go second as well, first turn going second, but primarily this is when you go first, you're not able to attack, then you can use this ability to get an extra energy in turn, and then you're going to be most likely attacking with the Shadow Rider VMAX on the following turn, which is excellent. This is also going to help against that Dark weakness. As I mentioned earlier, we are weak to Dark, but the Zacian here is weak to Metal, so this is a nice 2-prizer that you can attack with rather than the 3 prizes which the Shadow Rider VMAX gives up anyway, and it is a reasonable attack. If you have 3 psychics on here, you're hitting for 150, and you can even scale this up even further as well if you need to. We do have a couple of other support Pokemon here, primarily the Cresselia. Cresselia is the metal one. Cresselia here, however, allows you to attach 3 psychic energies from your deck onto your Pokemon if it is your first turn and you're going second. So very good ability on the Zacian for when we're going first, and then the Cresselia has a great attack here for when we're going second, or it is our first turn going second kind of thing. You know what I mean, but great energy acceleration, and that's what this deck is all about, so you'll able to see that. And then also going across to the Galarian Articuno, again, the ability makes it so that when we play it down from our hand, we can attach 2 psychic energies from our hand and put it onto this Pokemon. So again, a little bit of energy acceleration to ensure that we have plenty of energy and damage available for that Shadow Rider. It does also have a nice attack here. The Psy Laser attack makes it so you have to discard all of your energy, which isn't ideal, but you do get to have 120 damage onto one of your opponent's Pokemon, so really great if you aren't able to find boss and you need to finish something off, or you just need to kind of snipe something on the bench that your opponent has switched out of. Any of those kind of situations is great for this Pokemon, but primarily using it for that ability. And then lastly, we do have a Pumpkaboo here for the ability in order to discard a Stadium. If your opponent is playing Path to the Peak, of course that is going to be detrimental to our deck, despite the fact that we're playing 4 Stadiums ourselves as well, but we do have this in order to bump their Stadiums. And of course, if we want to reuse the Pumpkaboo or get anything out of the way, then we do also have a Scoop Up Net here just in case. But as you can see, the rest of the deck is very much focused on consistency. We have maxed out counts of things like Quick Ball, Great Ball. Fog Crystal is a great card in a Psychic deck like this, getting you those basic Psychic Pokemon as well as basic Psychic energies, which is fantastic. And then we do also have 3 Evolution Incense, just all of the items that you can imagine in order to get the consistency up as high as possible. And then we also have some fairly basic supporter cards in the form of Research Marnie and 3 Botty's Orders. I'm also playing 3 copies of Air Balloon, since we do have a 2 retreat cost on most of our Pokemon, so this is great in order to reduce that retreat cost and make it so that we can easily move our VMAXs out of the active after they take a hit, and then we can go in and attack with a different one while those energies stay on the bench and keep our damage nice and high. And then, as I mentioned, we do have a lot of Stadiums, which is going to be the Training Court here, allowing us to get energies back from the discard pile. So if we discard an energy with, say, Quick Ball or Professor's Research, we can easily get it back with Training Court, or of course if we do have a Pokemon that's knocked out, we can get the energy back this way as well. And then finishing off with 13 Psychic Energies. You do want a lot of energy in this deck so that you can have a lot of damage with the VMAX, and just ensure that you find it as well in order to use it with the ability. So very straightforward and simple deck, but it is very powerful and very consistent, as we'll get into with the games here. So let me know your thoughts on the deck down below in the comments, and if you have any suggestions for it, be sure to leave it down there as well, and give the video a like if you enjoy it at any point. Starting off this first match, we are up against an Eternatus deck right off the bat, which is certainly not ideal, but we can at least Fog Crystal here and grab ourselves the Zacian V. That is going to allow us to at least get some energies into play nice and early on here, and certainly look to attach onto itself as well, so that we can ensure we can start swinging for some reasonable damage. We will just go ahead and use the ability though, end our turn, and get that extra energy into play. We do already have the Evolution Incense in our hand, so this does guarantee us the VMAX for the following turn, which is then going to allow us to draw 2 cards off the top, as well as attach one of these Psychic Energies. We will just be looking for an Air Balloon in order to get the retreat here and start swinging with a Zacian. We'll have to see how much bench Pokemon my opponent can get into play. They are going to be needing quite a bit, but it shouldn't be too difficult in order to knock out our Zacian, since it does have 220 hit points. Should be pretty easy for my opponent, but we'll see what they can come up with. They're just going to be looking to set up their board. They're playing out their hand here so they can Crobat, Dark Asset for 3. Definitely looking to build up some energies as well, which they do find, as the Eternatus deck does really fall quite far if it does miss an energy attachment early on. So they were able to find that. They did also play down a Training Core of their own, and they are going to be able to hit us for weakness, which could be relevant later on. We'll have to find out. I will go for the Evolution Incense here though, and we can grab ourselves the VMax. Getting the Quick Ball is pretty nice as well, since there is a training court in play. We can certainly make use of that, but we do also have our own. And I'm almost tempted to take the Articuno here, so we can put extra energies into play, although I'm not sure how relevant that is going to be, so I think we will just take another Shadow Rider for now. We'll definitely use the training court, get our energy back, and we can start putting some of these Pokemon into play and see if we can't find a air balloon in order to retreat here. So definitely going to go ahead and attach to the Zacian. Come on, air balloon. That's not going to be an air balloon, unfortunately. We just have to go for another Fog Crystal, and I guess we can get another Zacian. That seems reasonable. Start attaching onto there, and we could even go for a boss's orders. Try and stall out my opponent a little bit here. It doesn't seem like a terrible idea, so we'll bring up the Crobat for now, and we will use Zacian once again, getting some extra energies into play. And it does also thin out the deck, so we can hopefully get some better draws in this following turn. Definitely want to hold the Psychic Energy in my hand so that we can use the VMax in order to attach it and draw 2 cards on this following turn. My opponent looks like they are also playing the Moltres here, so it's going to be a very difficult matchup, and I would say it's pretty much our auto loss, which is a little bit unfortunate considering it is the first game here. We immediately go into our most terrible matchup, hardest matchup, however you want to put it, and they are even playing the big charms as well, which make it even more difficult. They go for the energy switch, which they are playing, and they can energy switch onto the active, as well as using another dark asset to draw some cards, and can actually deal quite a bit of damage with the Crobat here, hitting us for 140 with that weakness, and then the poison is also going to tick up a little bit, but I really don't see a way of us winning this game, especially with the fact that my opponent has the Eternatus VMaxes set up pretty much ready to go, along with the fact that they have the big charms. It's going to make it very difficult for a Zacian V in order to knock out one of those Eternatus. There's the attack from my opponent. We do get hit with some poison, and we can at least, like I said, use the VMax here to attach some extra energy. We'll attach it onto the Zacian V, and yeah, we're not going to be able to find any air balloons this time around, which is a little unfortunate because this VMax is going to be knocked out by my opponent on this following turn. I guess we could hold the energy, but that way it's probably better off just to build up some big Zacians here, and we'll once again use Zacian's ability here in order to get an additional energy out of the deck and onto itself. So at the moment, Zacian should be hitting for 180 damage, which is going to be enough to knock out a Crobat in one hit, and that's really all we can have at our disposal. We can take a knockout on this Crobat, my opponent will come up, knock out our Zacian, and we'll just have to take it from there, I suppose. Now the Moltres, I believe, yeah, it deals 190 damage, so not quite enough to take out a Zacian, and we'll have to see if my opponent opts to go in with the Eternatus instead. I'm guessing they will, since they do already have the energy on there for this turn, but there goes our VMax. Since we're not able to find an air balloon, there's really nothing that we could do to get it out of the active, unfortunately. And we're just going to be forced to promote our Zacian instead. Now we do top take another Pokemon, which isn't going to be particularly useful. I'll just go for the attack instead and get the knockout on this Crobat. Dealing some nice numbers with the Zacian here. You do have to pile on quite a lot of energies, unfortunately, but at the very least we do have 2 prize cards that we can work with. Just going to be another Shadow Rider though, no supporter card here. And you can see if you don't have your Shadow Riders set up in order to draw cards, then it can sometimes be a little tricky to get everything that you need, but as we can see and as predicted, my opponent has the Eternatus set up here, and they will be able to take a nice easy knockout on our Zacian, and there's not really anything else that we can do in order to combat this. We can promote a Zacian, perhaps hit them for 180, but then they can easily just take another knockout on the following turn and fairly quickly close out this game. So Yep, as I mentioned, we just have a really unfortunate matchup against this deck with the dark typing, but looks like my opponent actually misses the knockout. They opted not to play down an additional Pokemon in order to get the knockout there, so we actually have another turn in order to try and see what we can pull out here. I think we'll play down a Shadow Rider. I'm quite happy to quick ball away some of this stuff. I think we can get rid of a Cresselia, that seems fine, and we can always grab out another Cresselia, sure, and we will Marnie my opponent, get that hand size back down, and see if we can draw into some better pieces here. That is certainly some. That is a Shadow Rider and an Energy, so we can start drawing some cards here. Not terrible, not the greatest. I will also Great Ball here, just in case we find some Pokemon, and we do. We get another Shadow Rider. Unfortunately, we can't evolve into it though, as I did just put down the basic Shadow Rider there, but we do finally see an Air Balloon, which is nice. I could opt to retreat into the other Zacian in case my opponent doesn't have the basic Pokemon here in order to get the knockout, and honestly I kind of like that because then it could put them in a tough spot. So let's go for the retreat. I think we'll hold on to the Fog Crystal until the following turn, and we'll just hit my opponent for 180 once again. Like I said, they'll be forced to find a basic Pokemon here. It is Eternatus. I mean, I don't think they'll have much of a problem, and yeah, there it is. Immediately gets the basic played down to ensure they can get a knockout here. And they also have the switch. Okay, they have the switch and Marnie, so it's going to be making it even more difficult for us to get the knockout this time around. Since we did that to them, they're just going to do it right back to us. Definitely makes a lot of sense, and they are going to be able to play down a Zigzagoon from their hand that they find off of the Marnie, and that is all they need in order to close out this game. The Zigzagoon, of course, dealing 10 damage to one of our Pokemon, and that is all the HP that Zacian V had remaining. They also get the Umbreon as well as a nice bit of cheese there in order to take an extra couple of prizes, even though they didn't have them on our VMAX there. So bit of a shame that we did go up against our worst matchup, but hopefully the next game will be a lot better and show off the strength of the deck. Getting into game 2 here, we're starting off with the Shadow Rider once again, and we immediately see a dark Pokemon. This time it is the amazing rare Yveltal, which, I mean, it's not going to be hitting us for weakness because, as you can see, it instantly knocks out the defending Pokemon, but it does require a lot of energy in order to get there, so I'm not too worried about it right now. We will Fog Crystal here. Probably should have used the Great Ball first in order to increase our chances, but that's alright, we'll use it here. We still have reasonable chances, and we do pick up a VMAX, which is fine. I'll certainly take that. We can go ahead and attach to the active. We can Quick Ball, get some extra basics down here. Probably just another Shadow Rider. It's going to be reasonable, and then we can use our Zacian in order to attach that extra energy and ensure we can start attacking with the VMAX on the following turn here. And that is exactly why I love this Zacian in the deck. Shows you that even if you go second, you can have a good VMAX set up and ready to go and start dealing damage. My opponent is just going to concede because they can guess that we are going to go for that, and they do take a lot in order to set the deck up, so nothing that they can do there, and we can move right along into the next game. Game 3, and it looks like we're up against probably a Leafeon focused deck, but they might have other supporting Pokemon here, so I'm very interested to see how this goes, because I don't think I've played against Leafeon VMAX all that often just yet. Certainly seem like there's a lot of other more popular archetypes around, but Leafeon does seem like a pretty fun one, so definitely interested to see what they're playing it with. We see a Sobble, the Rapid Strike Sobble, potentially looking to get some Drizzles out on this coming turn, but we're just going to go for an ability on their end, getting an energy attached, just like what our Zacian has here. And we do have a excellent hand. We have the Shadow Rider off the top deck. Let's go for the Great Ball here first of all to see what Pokemon we get. We do get a Shadow Rider VMAX, which is fine. not the best, but I'll take it. And we can also Fog Crystal here, getting out our Cresselia. That's going to allow us to attach a bunch of energy from the deck. Since we are going second here, we can get an attack. We will be retreating our Zacian, attaching to the active, and we can definitely go for the attack here, attaching 3 Psychic Energy. Could potentially split them up, but honestly, I think we will just go all in on the Shadow Rider. I guess I can't split them up. I was under the impression that you could, but I guess not. Nope, they all go into one Pokemon. I was thinking of the Volcanion from last generation, I believe it was. There was a Volcanion which had this same attack, but unfortunately this one doesn't allow you to split the energy, whereas the Volcanion that we had before allowed you to split the energy, which was really great for setting up multiple Pokemon across your bench, or even attaching one onto Volcanion if you wanted to attach with it. So, bit of a shame that Cresselia can't do that. You are forced to put it all onto one target, and certainly is risky in case your opponent gets a boss's orders and is able to find a way of getting a knockout on this Shadow Rider. So you do have to watch out for that, but at the very least we are ready to go with our VMAX here. We're just going to be looking to get another air balloon maybe. I mean, Cresselia does have a 1 retreat cost, so we could just retreat out, but we are going to be losing a little bit of damage from doing that. We would really love an energy from the top deck as well in order to make use of our Underworld Door ability. That would be great. Looks like my opponent is going to be discarding their hand a little bit in order to use the Dark Asset on a Crobat here and try and draw into a couple of better cards. I'm guessing they're looking for the VMAX, but they could have just got it off of the Drizzle here. There's the Evolution Incense, so they're going to be grabbing that VMAX now. And there it is. They are going to be able to get a nice attack, and I'd have to guess anyways, they do have a 2 or 3 attack cost, so they are going to be looking for an energy off of this Dark Asset, perhaps even a supporter card as well. But doesn't look like they have the best of starts. It's looking pretty slow from them so far. Just a Dark Asset for 2, but they do find the energies, so they are able to attack here and see if they can do a little bit of damage. They are dealing a base of 60, yeah, just 60 damage because it is 60 times, but there's the boss's orders, I called it. And yeah, that is just the risk that you have to play when you are using the Cresselia there. But we do have our VMAX. I think we could just go ahead and swing. I mean, my opponent is going to be hitting us for 120 again, so it's not going to be a knockout, and it seems like a good idea here. So yeah, we'll go with this. We'll Evolution Incense so that we can thin the deck of a VMAX, get some better draws, and we will use our Underworld Door ability attaching onto the Zacian. We can draw 2. There's a Training Court, which isn't too bad. I mean, I will be losing the VMAX if we research, but I think I kind of have to research here, so I'll put down the Training Court and research, looking for some more basics instead of the VMAX there. Looks like we do find it though. We can quick ball away a energy, since we can easily get it back with the Training Court, as I mentioned in the deck profile. That's going to allow us to get another VMAX set up here, and we can Training Court and get this energy back, and we're sorted. We can attach an energy as well. We'll put this onto the VMAX. Yeah, that seems reasonable. Definitely want to increase our damage, so we'll put it there, and we can hit our opponent for a massive 190 damage. That's not too shabby considering we did get to accelerate an energy, and my opponent is going to be struggling to get a knockout here. They could go and attach a 3rd energy, but that's only going to allow them to deal 170. We do have 200 HP remaining, so it is going to be a little bit of a struggle for them to get the knockout unless they find a way of increasing our retreat cost. They do certainly play things like the Galar Mine, which I'm guessing they do have here. As we can see, increases the retreat cost of both active Pokemon by 2, and that is going to allow them to get the knockout by dealing 240 damage, doubling our retreat cost, and a little bit scary, but we should be able to get a comeback here We do just need a couple of energy in order to do it though. We do find a boss's orders. We can also replace the stadium, which we do absolutely need to do. And we do also have an air balloon, which I'll certainly put down into play. That's going to help quite a bit. We can research here once again. I'm losing a couple of bosses' orders to these researches, but we really need them in order to get the energies that we need and get a nice attack going here. So we'll get our energy from the training court. We could also fog crystal for a few things here. Potentially the Articuno in order to accelerate some energies that way. That could be good. It is only dealing 140 though, so not quite there, as we have to deal, I suppose we have to deal 120. It is dealing 120, I believe, yeah. 120, okay, we could Articuno here for sure. We could also try and go with the Zacian, which is another option, but it's not going to be quite there. We do also need the VMax, but Fog Crystal cannot grab the VMax, so it has to be a basic Pokemon. So I think we're going to be all in on the Articuno at this point. The other option is using the Cresselia here, which does also deal 120. I suppose that way we're not losing quite as much energy if we attack with a Cresselia, so we could potentially go with that instead. Probably a better route overall. So let's go with the retreat and our Cresselia. We have the Articuno plus 2 energy, so we can attach those, and that's going to be able to boost our damage on Cresselia. And then Fog Crystal gets us the other energy that we need in order to actually attack here, and that is everything that we need. So yeah, we have the knockout with a 1 prizer, so even if my opponent is able to pull a attack out of the bag, which I highly doubt they will, then they will only be taking the 1 prize at the very least. So we're in a good spot here, going back up and tying the prize race with my opponent, and we have a good amount of energy in order to continually attack with our Cresselia here, or use our Articuno if we need it. My opponent is down, of course. They don't have a basic Leafeon in play in order to evolve into a VMAX, so this is going to give us a little bit of time in order to get another attacker set up here. I'll look to get a VMAX if possible. We do also have a boss's orders if we need it, but not really a big threat that we can use to get a knockout on it at the moment, unfortunately. My opponent does have the Drizzile that they can use here, so they'll be able to grab a trainer card out of the deck. They could potentially get an Evolution Incense and evolve up that other Drizzile on the bench there. Could be a good option. We'll have to see what they go for. They are taking their time, so they do have a few options, but looks like it is just the Galar Mine that they're going for, looking to increase the retreat cost once again of both of our active Pokemon. It's going to make it a little bit more challenging in order to, if we want to get out of the active spot, but we do have another training court in our hand already, so I'm not too worried. We do have 2 in the discard already, and let's see here, we do also get the Pumpkaboo, which is a nice pickup to see. So I will start off with the training core, as we want to get some energies out of the discard pile here for sure. Could also go for a big Marnie play, I do like that, and also putting down another Shadow Rider, probably a good option. So let's go ahead and start with that, and also want to attach this energy, I think, to the Shadow Rider here with the air balloon, and then we will go for the Marnie. The other option is bring up the Leafeon, I suppose, and hitting into it before it's able to evolve into a VMAX. That would certainly make life a bit easier, and I suppose it would probably make it easier for my opponent as well, but it means that we do only need to take 3 prize cards. So honestly, let's go with this. We do have a pretty good setup at the moment. We do have plenty of ways of drawing cards in this following turn, so I'm going to go for the boss's orders now. Hit my opponent for 120. If they have the VMAX, then they are already heavily damaged and we're in a good spot to deal with it. And if they don't have the VMAX, then we can just get the knockout on this basic Leafeon on the following turn. So definitely putting pressure on my opponent. Of course, they can get the grass energy back there, as Training Core works for both players. so they're able to recover energy as well. Certainly makes sense. And like I said, they're just looking for that VMAX. They do have a pretty substantial hand in order to find it, so I wouldn't be surprised if they already have it in there, honestly. But they do have to also find the stadium in order to deal some extra damage potentially, because as we've seen earlier, the attack only deals 60 damage on a Cresselia, which wouldn't be enough to get the knockout, so they did already have that stadium in their hand in order to get that down and get the knockout on Cresselia here. They're also going for the Evolution Incense, getting the quick shooting Inteleon, so they can deal some extra damage if they so desire. And we're just going to be looking to get a big knockout here, so looking to find a VMAX. The Shadow Rider VMAX is going to be crucial in order to get an energy on there and deal the knockout. Basically is what we're going for, but my opponent hits us with a Marnie, so no Pump Kaboo for us, sadly. And we are just going to be getting into a bit of a dead hand here. Sure, we could get the VMAX out, but we're not going to be able to find the energy in order to actually get the knockout. We really need that in order to finish off this game here, but my opponent has the Steel Scrapper as well, which makes things even more tricky. We can't air balloon out of the active spot, which yeah, it's a little bit sketchy now. My opponent going for the Shady Dealings Inteleon now, grabbing them at 2 trainer cards out of the deck instead of the 1 that the Drizzile provides. Potentially just looking to get a supporter card and get themselves set up for the following turn here in case they need another Leafeon. And yeah, there is a Scoop Up Net and Galar Mine, the last Galar Mine that they have available. Scoop Up Net though, making it so that they can pick up that Inteleon they just played down. That is going to allow them to go ahead and use the Shady Dealings on the following turn. Definitely makes sense doing that. And there it is. Definitely going to be picking up that Inteleon. And they did quick shooting our Shadow Rider, so they know that it is the threat that we want to attack with. They are able to get a knockout on us, and now it's going to be on us in order to find a energy and a Shadow Rider, which is quite a bit to ask for, I must say. We do have a Articuno, I suppose we could put up in the hopes that my opponent has to knock it out. I guess we'll have to do that. We don't have a lot of other options here, so we'll draw, we pick up another Quick Ball, which is not really what I'm looking for. We'll Evolution Incense, grab the Shadow Rider. We can also Great Ball here for the Pump Kaboo, which is very good. Definitely want to get that Galar Mine out of here. Yes, I want to play it. And it's going to force my opponent to put down that last Galar Mine that we know that they have in their hand. But unfortunately we don't have the energy here, and I don't have the, yeah, I just don't have anything. So we're going to put down the VMAX to ensure that my opponent doesn't knock out the basic Shadow Rider at the very least. We can also Quick Ball here, I suppose, thin the deck a little bit, but the other option is holding on to it, but we're not really holding on for anything, so I'll use it then now, and we can get another Shadow Rider. And all that's left to do is use our Zacian. That is going to get the energy that we need onto the Shadow Rider VMAX. We are going to be losing 2 energy on this Articuno, but we should have plenty in play in order to finish off this Leafeon since we did damage it earlier. The only downside is if my opponent's able to accelerate energy, but I'm trying to think. I don't think they have any way of accelerating other than, say, a energy switch. That would be detrimental if they were to attach onto the benched Leafeon, evolve, energy switch, then they would be in a good spot. But my opponent passes over. I'm not sure if they've just walked away from the computer or what just happened, but my opponent has passed to us, so that is going to allow us to get a top deck of the training court. We can go for the attachment onto the Articuno, retreat, and we can even use the Underworld Door ability if we want to get some extra energies into play as well. Not quite sure why my opponent just passed over to us. Maybe they didn't have anything in their hand at all. Very strange, as I'm sure they would have at least had a supporter card. I mean, they did have the Drizzile, so Yeah, they certainly could have used Shady Dealings. They just opted to do nothing for some reason and were able to close out that game, but certainly could have gone either way. My opponent did find all of the pieces that they needed at good points throughout that match, so they could have won if they'd actually just played the game, but still showed off how good this deck is and also showed off a bunch of the partner Pokemon in the deck as well, which was great to see as we were able to make use of the Zacian multiple times. We made use of the Articuno and the Cresselia, and even Pumpkaboo made an appearance, so it was great to show off every aspect of the deck there, and I hope you enjoyed this one because I certainly have a lot of fun playing this deck. I certainly believe it is a top tier deck still in this format, being able to deal a lot of damage consistently as well as hit for weakness against Urshifu. So until the next video, I'll see you in the next one.